All right, guys. So thanks for coming. Thank you, and also welcome to our SaksWorks space for anyone who hasn't been here yet. So for anyone who also doesn't know, SaksWorks is our innovative new member club, which is designed for work and life. So obviously, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, this is an interesting society where we're living in, where it's one of the most connected times, but also most disconnected times. So much of our thesis here around SaksWorks was specifically figuring out how we can democratize connection amongst the different ways throughout different activations and kind of integrate it seamlessly into your work day or just your life day. So you can join our spaces, work out, exist, listen to a leadership speaker, listen to some wisdom from some very cool individuals, and that's that. So I'm going to introduce you to Rachel, who will be moderating today, and she'll introduce our guests.
Are you sitting on it? I might be sitting on a mic. I don't usually require a mic. This is a musical theater event, so we all know to sing out, Louise. So that's a very niche joke. My name is Rachel Sklar. I will shortly be joining SaksWorks to run programming, and I have to wait for the visa, the Canadian visa, to come through. But other than that, it is such a pleasure to be hosting my first event here in the beautiful and wonderful smelling SaksWorks space, that signature scent. Let it invigorate you and fill your lungs. And talking about being connected, for me, there's no greater way to connect than through music and with wonderful friends who make music. But before I introduce our beautiful, wonderful, fantastic guests, just a small programming note. This is Michael from Body Squad, a partner of SaksWorks. And for those who are interested, Michael is happy to give you a little, is it the tech stretch?
Yeah, tech stretch, just recovering your back, neck, and shoulders, things that back.
So we're here for your full comfort and your brain, your body, for your lungs, everything. So we have the Body Squad cards on the table. Everyone should grab one after, and then we'll come see Michael. And that's right. And if anyone wants a tour after, we will also be giving you tours. You can come see Nicole or me or really anybody. It's
Family.
Not a whole lot of us here today. Okay, so welcome Dan Mertzlufft and Kate Leonard, musical theater composers, the Toast of Broadway / the Toast of Broadway minus Broadway during the period when there was no actual Broadway to put your shows on with. That was ironically for Dan and Kate, their period of their greatest professional flowering, and we're going to be talking about that. You may know Dan and Kate from Ratatouille, the Tik-Tok Musical, and if you are not familiar with that fantastic show filled with bops, you should probably find it. You'll tell us where it can be found. And as well as Breathe, which was a musical that is about life in the pandemic, and other projects that are happening. So Dan and Kate, why don't we just start by, you can each tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Do we need that? I'll just
Do we,
talk.
I mean, yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Can you guys hear?
I have a nice loud voice. Is that all right?
Is it working? Everybody can hear? Okay,
Yeah.
and we have a mic on the camera, so it should work. So yeah, we'll start with Daniel. First of all, how do you prefer professionally and personally to be addressed? Because when I was putting this together, I was like, Dan Mertzlufft, Daniel J. Mertzlufft. I mean, you are
Daniel Mertzlufft.
okay.
I used to have the J, and then when like all the Ratatouille stuff started happening, it was just Daniel Mertzlufft. So that's the final. But you can call me Dan. That's fine. Hello.
So I should say, so I know Daniel, Dan, and Kate from the BMI Musical Theater Workshop, where we all were in class together. It's the premier musical theater training ground, I guess, for the next generation of musical theater composers and songwriters. Some end up on Broadway, some end up in SaksWorks. It really is a grab bag of where BMI graduates will find themselves. But so that's why I know Dan and Kate. I've collaborated with them both. They're both fantastic artists. So tell us a teeny bit about your journey to BMI, and then we'll talk a bit about how you came together and into the pandemic. We'll start with Dan.
Sure. So I think most writers started as a performer. I think like that's how most people like sort of get into musical theater. And I realized in high school that I really liked writing. And especially I was like figuring out orchestration and arranging and like exploring all that. And then when I went to college, I was like, oh, this is like a real thing one can pursue. I just never like put that together. I started as a music educator, like that was my major. And I played my music for some people and they were like, you should do this. And I literally had not even conceived of the idea that composition was a thing that one could do. So I changed my major and...
Change your major from music education to...
Well, I actually added a major. I completed both. But I added on composition. And then moved to the city right when I graduated, which is actually 6 years today is when I moved to the city, which is really crazy. And then just started working as, playing piano and at 54 Below and as many gigs as I could possibly get. And then a colleague of mine named Robert Kiki, who wrote The Lightning Thief, the musical, said, do you know what the BMI musical theater writing program is? And I was like, yeah, I've heard of it, but I would never, get in. He was like, you should try, you should apply, and I did, and I got in.
And there you met?
Kay Leonard.
Yeah. So I also started as a performer. I was a theater kid all through growing up, and I did improv in high school and college, and for many, many years after college. And I had wanted to go into TV professionally, and so I did that for a few years after college. And then when I started the BMI workshop, which I kind of applied to on a whim, on the advice of my wonderfully talented friend Kate Anderson, who is one of the songwriters for Central Park and for Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which is the Frozen short.
If you have children, you are familiar with
Yeah, with her work. She's wonderful. She suggested I give BMI a try because I was enjoying doing musical improv where you make up songs on the fly. And once I started writing musicals, I looked at how that made me feel versus how working in TV production made me feel, and I was like, oh, I think I know what direction I want to take.
Wait, can you just, you gotta unpack that now. Why you didn't like working in TV? Were you working on a really depressing show that was all about skullduggery and murder, or what?
Well, the last show that I worked on in TV was a mini-series about 9/11, so that was depressing, yes. But no, working in TV was fine.
That was like a layup, by the way, for you to talk about House of Cards.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like,
Right.
I worked on House of Cards.
I worked on House of Cards. I worked in the writer's room for House of Cards for the first 4 seasons. And then I did a VH1 show, and then I did The Looming Tower for Hulu. And then I discovered BMI and was like, oh, theater's the direction I'm going to go now.
If only The Looming Tower had jazz hands, it might have been a very different experience.
If I'd had the opportunity to write, oh, no, that would be totally inappropriate. Okay.
So, so talk a little bit about how you two came together as collaborators.
sure.
Yeah, well, the way that the BMI workshop works is that in the first year, you're paired with different people. So as a lyricist, I was paired with a bunch of different composers. As a composer, Dan was paired with a bunch of different lyricists.
Including Rachel.
Yes, they wrote their 10-minute musical together at the end of the year. But Dan and I were never paired together. We just got along, liked each other's work, and we decided to take a risk on spending the entire second year of the program writing together on an adaptation of the novel House Rules by Jodi Picoult.
Yeah, and I know Jodi just like as a friend, and I went to her and said like, I'd love to adapt one of your books. Would you ever do that? And she was like, yes, these are the ones that I want to adapt. Any of the other ones you can have. So I went through the list, and I remember I mentioned to Kate maybe look at some of these, and the following week at the bar, because that's where we go after every class. She was like, okay, so these are my thoughts. I've gone through all of these. I've read 7 books. And we agreed on the same one, and we were like, okay, let's do this.
So I had the privilege and pleasure of witnessing the House Rules come together. It was amazing. I'm just going to cut straight to the presentation. House Rules is ready to go. You're having a workshop in the Hamptons. Where were things were rolling, and then pandemic. So can you give us a sense of where you were in March 2020 and how March 2020 felt as one by one the lights on Broadway were turned off, along with the hopes and dreams of probably anybody in the theater industry at that time?
Yeah.
Not to bring it down, but that's how it felt.
Yeah, so we had a reading of the show in the Hamptons in August, and then we knew our next step was to create some really high quality demos, start shopping it around to producers, like that. And actually, the last week of February is when we got the instrumental versions of these demos, like gorgeous demos by this guy Connor Keelan. He's incredible. We use him for like everything. And we got them, and we're like finding vocalists to sing and doing all that, and then like the pandemic hit, and like we literally forgot about it for a couple of months that we even had like these beautiful demos almost ready. But yeah, I mean, we were like forging ahead, and then all of a sudden everything stopped.
So you were in New York together, working together in person, and then where did you end up going? Kate, you were about to say something, so say.
Just that at the point that we were at on House Rules, we were actually in the process of trying to find a librettist for the project, because we have the songs, we don't have the story, and we were specifically looking for a librettist on the autism spectrum, because the primary story, the primary character in that show is on the autism spectrum, and it isn't our place to represent that perspective. So we were moving ahead with our demos, but we were also simultaneously on pause with further creative development of the story. So at the time that the pandemic hit, we didn't have next steps for ourselves as writers lined up on any projects.
So then what happened?
Well, both of us went home.
Yeah, we both went to our parents' homes.
Where's home?
So for me, it's Rochester, New York, and for Dan, it is Buffalo, New York, and both of those they're an hour apart from each other.
Which is very random. Like, we did
Yeah.
not know that when we started working. Or I guess we did, but. So I think that, like, where eventually the story will go is I, like, really missed writing, and I, like most people, I'm a secret millennial. Don't tell everyone on TikTok.
What does that even mean?
Don't tell people on TikTok.
Don't
tell Gen Z.
I'm confused. So you're millennial, but they think you're Gen Z? Is that the
I mean,
idea?
I like skid by because I've done stuff on TikTok.
If he told you he was 23, you would believe him.
I did the same thing. Like, listen, as a 23-year-old, I know another 23-year-old when I see him. So.
So that like first week, I could not go on social media, and literally like 2 weeks before, I went to my nephew and I was like, "Hi, I need you to teach me what TikTok is because I'm very confused." And I like was on it, and I was like, "Whatever."
How old is your nephew?
He's like a work nephew. He's not like my real nephew, but he's.
Is that a
oh God,
thing?
he's 18 now. Yeah,
Okay.
like
Nephew.
you know, one of the ones where it's like they're not actually blood related, but they're basically your nephew. But he just turned 18, which is very scary to me.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But I was like, I need you to teach me this. And then that week is when I really like started scrolling. And I remember like getting onto musical theater TikTok by seeing accompanists who would play songs, and they'd be like, "Sing with me, like here's The Wizard and I," or "Defying Gravity," and they like play the end of it. But then it's like, oh, it's the actual like pianist at Wicked who's playing this, or like it's the pianist from Waitress who's playing She Used to Be Mine, and then people could duet it. And I was like, how cool is it that people from around the world can sing She Used to Be Mine with the actual Waitress pianist? Like, that's so cool to me. So I started doing that, and I had like, I have arrangements and stuff I can post and be like, here, sing like this fun arrangement. And that's sort of how I got into musical theater TikTok and like posting. And what's crazy about the platform is like I had like 3 followers, and then I woke up one day and a video of mine had like 15,000 views. And it's literally just the way that the TikTok algorithm works, that you can have like no followers, but if a video does well, a video is going to do well. And that's what is so amazing about it, and such a place for collaboration. And that's sort of how I got into it.
So is the video that had 15,000 views, is that Grocery Store Musical?
No, this was an Avatar: The Last Airbender parody musical, which is a show that I love. I have a tattoo of it and everything. But it re-dropped on Netflix last summer. So like I was, the main character's name is Aang, and he's 11, and I was 11 when it came out.
I too was 11 when it came out.
And it was really exciting to see this whole new generation of people discovering it, and then people my age who were re-experiencing it along with all these people who've never experienced it before. And if you've never watched it, I know it's a kid's show. It is there's one character specifically who has the best character arc of any modern story ever. and I will fight for that. It's amazing.
Do you, so we're gonna come back to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Because so you're becoming a TikTok phenom.
I'm reorganizing my parents' pantry.
Okay.
Yeah. That took a long time, so that was most of my March.
And then, how did you come back together then? So, because in the interim, you went viral with
Grocery
super
store,
viral,
yeah.
grocery store.
That was the first
tell
one.
us about Grocery Store the Musical?
Sure. So the Grocery Store the Musical was like the first like viral. And I hate saying that word. Like, what is viral? But really, what happened was it got big on TikTok, but then it moved to Twitter. Someone posted it on Twitter, and that's when like people, like reporters and things started seeing it, and like big social media stars, and like we got on like Good Morning America and stuff. And essentially,
Can you just explain in case
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
hasn't seen it, or maybe I've seen people know TikTok.
I'll
but,
do the quick version. So basically, it was this girl named Louisa Melcher posted this. She had a song that she posted and had a video go viral where she played it for her dad in the car, and the dad was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "It's a new song. Do you like it?" And he's like, "No, it's terrible." But it's her singing, and she's like, "It's my song." And so people started using this song all over TikTok. And there's this one line and we're fighting in a grocery store, and I love you, but I don't know if I like you anymore. Because like that just sounds like a modern musical theater line. Do you know what I mean? Like I can picture that at like the big. It's like a song from Dear Evan Hansen. Like I don't know if the mom and Evan were fighting in the grocery store, they'd say that to each other. So I did like this full arrangement, posted myself doing it, and that started to do well. But people started to duet it, which is a feature on TikTok where you can like sing or like duet with someone's video and play all these different characters. So then it was like my wife, and then the child, and then the grocery store worker, and then Kale, and like the squeaky wheel on a shopping cart, and a can of soup. Yeah, a can of soup.
It wasn't like the sprinkler system got in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
action. And then what was amazing too was that because this point was when I discovered musical theater TikTok, and I started going really deep. So there were people who were like musical theater, like for Broadway houses, like stage managers or lighting designers, and they would be like, "And go," and they would like they put it all together. It was really quite amazing. It is well worth the 5 hours of your time you will spend diving through to see it all. And that was how you came to GMA and all of that.
Yeah.
Can you please explain how that took you to duetting with Kristen Chenoweth, Patty LuPone, Josh Groban, the other Josh Gad,
Audra McDonald.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
On James Corden. This next.
Yeah, so from there, I got an email that was just like a cold email from a producer, James Corden, who was like, "Hey, our team saw this, we really like this, we'd love to like explore doing something with you." And like hopped on a call with them, and they were like, the team was amazing from the very beginning, but from the first call, they were like, "Hey, we explore things all the time that never make it to air, but of course we'll compensate you for your time." They were amazing, and like I wrote like 7 different versions of the song for them, and it went to the team, it got approved, and then they like picked the
Thanksgiving,
one.
the musical.
Yes. We decided like it was going to be Thanksgiving, but this whole time it was supposed to be, what I was told was that it was going to be like a celebration of the Corden family, because they've been like, working from home, and he was like shooting in his garage for a long time, just like how hard they were working, because they have like the incredible band on there, and like a lot of the producers and things are amazing performers. So it like kept getting approved, and then we were like filming, and I was sitting in my parents' house, like, live streaming it on Zoom. And I knew James Corden was going to play my dad, but then Kristen Chenoweth popped up as my mom, and I was like, "Oh God, like this is not."
Is this live? Like you?
I had no idea. I mean, it wasn't live till like the 11:30 airing, but they film it at like 4 o'clock or whatever in the afternoon.
Essentially,
But yes, I had no
when
idea.
it aired tape to air, you.
Yeah, had no idea that it was going to happen. And they told me like, "Just so you know, like, while the video's playing, we'll still like see you, so feel free to like react and stuff. We'll see you." And I was like, "Okay," like not realizing why I would be reacting. Yeah, and that was really, really amazing that all of these incredible Broadway talents who I admired so much were willing to do this.
Lucky. That was an
Like,
amazing star turn.
It was
for
crazy.
Everybody.
I mean, Patty LuPone.
I know.
I love Patty LuPone more than life itself. Yeah.
Okay, so this is all happening. Your parents' pantry is looking fine.
Oh my God, I got to the pots and pans at this point. They were over the moon.
Well, but also at this point, we had started working on Breathe. We started working on Breathe
yeah.
pretty early in the pandemic.
Okay, so Breathe did not come as an outgrowth of your meteoric Ratatouille success. You got it. Okay, so how does that happen? How does
I've been
all that
talking
happen?
a lot.
Well, very early in the pandemic, like when we'd been home for maybe 2 weeks, something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
really early.
Really early. We get an email from Timothy Allen McDonald and Jody Pico, who we know through, Dan works with Tim, and we know Jody through House Rules, and they're putting together songwriting teams for a new musical about the pandemic, chronicling events of the pandemic in real time. That's going to be a series of vignettes, each with a different songwriting team. And they were hoping that we would do songs for one of the stories, and we read the story and we're like, absolutely, we would love to do that.
Yeah, so then we like jumped right in and started writing on that. And I believe Clear as Day, which is the first song we wrote for it, was done middle of April, because I like have the voice memo, and I think it's like April 16th or something. So like barely a month in, and we already had a song.
I love that song, by the way. I'm not playing favorites, but it was my favorite song in the show. So this is happening, and then you're also doing all this on TikTok. So can you explain sort of the genesis of Ratatouille, and then how you came in? Because are you a big TikToker?
No. I downloaded TikTok when the Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff was happening because I wanted to know what Dan was talking about. And obviously I got sucked into TikTok because it's impossible not to, and I have spent so much of my life now staring at the tiny screen in my hand, just watching TikToks mindlessly for hours. But no, I don't participate actively in the TikToks. I just let it wash over me.
Okay, so Ratatouille starts. There's like an organic collaboration based on Ratatouille, the Pixar?
Disney.
Disney about a plucky rat who wants to cook, and then suddenly that starts to blow up.
Yeah, so there was a video by this girl, Emily Jacobson, who sang like this cute little tune. And
You should sing it for us.
Remy, the Ratatouille, the rat of all our dreams. We praise you, oh Ratatouille, may the world remember your name. Which is literally all it is. But I was like, this, it just sounds like the end of an act, like the Act 2 ending of a Disney musical. Which is funny because I saw the opening of Aladdin last night, and it's just as so effective. Where all they're doing for the finale is singing a reprise of Whole New World. But you know, they have like the big brass and like the French horns are happening, and I'm like weeping, and I'm like, it's literally just a reprise of a song they sang earlier, but I can't help it. Or same thing at the end of Little Mermaid, they sing a reprise of Part of Your World, but it's now they can walk, now they can run, now they can stay all day in the sun, and then just you and me, and I'm like,
And they really distract you from the fact that she totally gave up her voice for a man.
yep, it's totally
But
fine.
that's- yeah.
No, she got what she wanted before she knew the man existed.
Oh, that's, okay, you're right, it's a feminist classic. I love Little Mermaid, but anyhow, so, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so it was like, you know, it's like a reprise of something that Remy would have sang earlier in the show, of like, may the world remember your name, and like, so I posted that, and that sort of launched this movement where people on TikTok were creating this fake musical. Like, okay, well, what if Linguini sang a song here? What if someone did this? And then you had directors being like, well, I would use puppets for this moment, but it would be real. And you just had all these people talking about this fake thing that did not exist. Like, there was not a thing. And it was funny because then Disney finally started engaging when there was a New York Times article, and they were the first one to get a comment from Disney. And it's funny because it was like, you know, even if Disney had wanted to shut it down, what was there to shut down? Like, there wasn't like a person who was like, I am the Ratatouille movement. Like, I posted a video months before there was these articles that was clearly parody, and there's like now hundreds of thousands of people who are making content for a fake thing. So it's like, it's not like, you know, I'm doing this thing.
It's a very strong fair use argument in your favor.
It's true. Yeah, thank you.
I used to be a lawyer. So absolutely, I know all about fair use.
But then Tom Schumacher was reached out to by Greg Noble from CV Productions, and they've done a million things. They did Slave Play, among a million other amazing things. And they said, hey, we want to do a concert benefit for the Actors Fund. Can we do this? And Tom said yes. And then I got the call from Greg, who said, hey, we want to do this thing. We want to do it January 1st, and that was on December 4th. So it was less than a month from like the call to it happening and airing. So we like put together a team real fast. The music team, I literally started the next day, and from opening Finale, which is like the music notation software, to being in a studio with an orchestra recording over 45 minutes of music was 13 days. So it was like, and sheet music did not exist for any of this stuff. Like, we had transcribers who were transcribing it. I would get it, I would arrange it, I'd send it off to our incredible orchestrator, Macy Schmidt, who I love dearly. And then like, it was just like a churning.
And now we have proof for sure that you're 23, because that's the only way you're going to get all that done.
That, and actually, what it was I was living with my parents at the time, so I like didn't have to worry about meals because my mom was like cooking dinner. So I was like, oh, I can like just work.
Moms are so useful.
She's the best. Meanwhile, like, we're doing all these arrangements of the pre-existing songs. We knew that there were going to be new songs that were needed. His I Want song, which would be the pre-prize of the finale, and then we knew we needed an opening. So I signed Kate up and then forgot to tell her. And I was like, yeah, I work with this girl, Kate. She'll be great. She'll write this. And then I like called you.
Yeah, so I was watching Dan do this from a distance, being like, boy, that Ratatouille stuff sure seems fun. Wish I could get involved. Can't invite myself, though. And it turned out that I was invited and did not know. And so Dan gives me a call, and he's like, hey, do you have like the next 48 hours free? And I was like, yeah, I'm pots and pans. And he asked if I can write the lyrics for this I Want song for Remy, and then subsequently we did the opening portion, and I did a handful of other lyric edits. But we wrote Remember My Name, which remember my name, which is Remy's I Want song, in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
Immortalized by Titus Burgess.
Yes.
If you're familiar.
Because we had such a quick turnaround. I mean, everything went fast on that.
And
that
it's
was
so good.
I like
it's so
that
good.
Listen,
Oh,
nothing makes you write better than a deadline.
That's true.
Well, and it was really fun because like I know we've always talked about Alan Menken and Howard Ashman and like how iconic their stuff is and why it still works today. And it's just, I mean, it's brilliant. And we got to write the Disney I Want song. Like, those are always my favorites as a kid. Like, Out There from Hunchback, Part of Your World. I mean, all of those Disney I Want songs are my favorite songs. They're the best.
And I can confirm that the 6-year-old in our house also, that was her favorite song. Yeah, she loves that rat. So I want to make sure, because a few people I know have to get back to their work, so I want to make sure we could open the floor to some questions and we can continue the conversation in that form. Otherwise, I could keep on asking you about Titus Burgess and Andrew Barth Feldman.
Oh, and
right?
he's the absolute best human being.
He was another Dear Evan
wonderful.
Hansen, right? There's
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
just say it's like a Evan Hansen factory.
And
on
he's
Broadway.
phenomenal on this season of High School
High School
Musical, the musical, the series. Highly recommend,
Yes,
even
it's-
for adults. It's great.
High
And
School Musical, the musical, the series, the TikTok, the musical theater adaptation, the live action film.
Well, no, what I've always wanted is for them to adapt it into a stage version for people to perform, because then it would be Disney's High School Musical, the series, the musical high school edition. Practice that one.
It's incredible. Okay, who has questions? Anyone? Otherwise, we can.
Okay, I could definitely have one. So out of curiosity, because obviously you guys are both still, to Rachel's point, doing like such almost a difficult profession in the time of a pandemic. It was like they were polar opposites. What was both of your favorite part of, I guess, almost just the process, or your favorite part about having that essentially like year of downtime?
Well, so there was another project that we worked on during the pandemic that was, it's a children's musical that we were doing in conjunction with a librettist who lives in Australia. And the cool thing about working with Australia during the pandemic was that we got to actually workshop the show with kids who were in a room together, because until a few months ago, Australia was open. And so it was the first, I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me it was the first time seeing kids perform work that we'd written.
Yeah.
And that was like a really overwhelming experience. I guess that's kind of the opposite of what you're asking me. Is that's like, how did we do theater normally when a pandemic was happening? But that's still my answer, and I stand by it.
All right.
I mean, I would say the like craziness from December 4th to January 1st of working on Ratatouille was the first time that I felt like I was actively back in theater, because it was like insane, constantly on calls with people. Like that feeling of collaboration, which is why I love theater and like why I love working with incredible people. It's all like collaboration's the best part. It's the first time that I felt that, and you know, like you can make it work. I think if any people can make things work, it's theater people. Like no matter what we're given. So that was really special, and the people that I worked with on that are some of my best friends who I like will work with hopefully for the rest of my life.
I have kind of like a creativity, productivity question. I you know, you did so much in those first few weeks, and when we didn't know how long this was going to last, I think a lot of people felt that like surge of like, okay, everything's different. What are we going to do? How are we going to take advantage of this? And then as time wore on, I think it was kind of like, oh my God, this is like we're in this. Hit a lot of people. Like, did you guys kind of experience that? Like, oh, how are we going to sustain this? Or like, did you kind of have ebbs and flows with like your creative process and your productivity? Or was it like you just had all these projects just pop up, so you just had to do it?
Deadlines helped.
Yes.
Deadlines made a huge difference. There was at least one day where I texted Dan and I was like, I'm really sorry, I didn't get anything done today. I was just really, really depressed. And he was like, oh yeah, I've had a few of those. That's normal, that's happening. But generally speaking, because we had placed out like deliverable schedules, it made it a little easier to keep up with the work consistency.
Yeah, and I'd say for me it was a coping mechanism. I know it was a coping mechanism where even that first week I like started this daily thing on Instagram where I was posting arrangements every day, and it was literally like I had to keep myself busy, which I know some people were not able to do that and really took the time to not be busy. But for me it was a coping mechanism for sure, where I was like I need to be doing something. Yeah.
My coping mechanism was watching those on Instagram. They were quizzes. I think I won once.
Yeah,
Quarantine quiz.
Quarantine
Talk about
quiz.
quarantine quiz.
Oh, it was this thing that I accidentally started where I was rewatching 30 Rock like right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was literally like the second day while I had COVID and I didn't know it because I lost my sense of taste and smell and no one knew that was a thing. So I like played like a dumb version of Muffin Top from 30 Rock. If you know 30 Rock, it's a great song from 30 Rock. And posted it on Instagram, and I was like, guess the song, ha ha ha, and people really liked it. So I like started doing it every day, and it became a thing where it was like, I got the logo. It became like every day at 7 o'clock Eastern time is when I would release that, and it was whoever answered it first. I would like announce it the next day and like give them a shout out. But it was really fun because I had people from all over the world who were doing it. And my favorite was like, there were these like 5 high school guys from California from a group that I've worked with quite a bit who were like so on top of it and constantly like battling to win with each other. And it was so funny to like connect with all these people who, you know, like every single day I was talking to them because they were responding that I was not talking to often, which is really fun.
I won quarantine quiz one time. It was Stacy's mom, and I got it from the first 2 notes. I was so proud of myself. And also, as far as like setting deadlines and having things on your schedule that keep you going every day, like Quarantine Quiz did, I made sure I had 3 Zooms on my calendar every single week so that I would have like, I wouldn't feel like time was just moving forward with no sense of structure. So, do you, our moderator, want to talk about Zoom Unity Theater?
Really don't, because it's such a not official thing. But I was on 2 of your 3 Zooms weekly.
Yes.
Because we had the BMI Musical Theater Workshop Zoom.
Oh, then I had 4 Zooms.
Oh wow. Okay. And then we had a weekly. I used to with a friend of mine, Daniel Suffolk, who is another BMI person and a musician in the Hamilton pit and a Hamilton rehearsal pianist. We used to host musicals in my living room because I'm a single mom. It's much easier for me to just have people come to my place, but for me to have to get a babysitter. And also, it's really fun for my child to have all these amazing, talented people singing in my living room. And Kate would always come to those. And then we switched it to Zoom Theater, and then we started calling it Zoom Unity Theater. And that is the extent of how official it was. But it was it's some really talented people doing a play a week, and it was an amazing way to have continued exposure to the arts And Kate was almost always our ringer lead of some sort, and fabulous actress and writer. But so I was on half her Zooms, I guess, half her weekly Zooms, and
our
constantly in
friend-
Daniel's DMs.
Our friend Adam, who was here, was also in many of these Zoom Unity Theater productions, these cold reads of plays. And the other thing is that I established 2 weekly writing groups to just hit like 10 pages a week on Dan's and my upcoming musical comedy fashion show. And so I had a writer's group on Thursday nights with Rachel.
Yeah,
and then had a-
and I dropped out of that because there was just no way that was happening for me. But I made the Zooms.
And then a Friday writing group with my friend Robbie, who's also here. And it was a nice way to make sure that we were moving, even when we didn't have deadlines for the projects that we'd been brought on to, we still were getting things done for the projects that we wanted to get done.
It is 3 minutes until 1. I want to see if there's anybody who has any other, like a wrap-up question. The zinger, the gotcha moment.
I have one that I ask everyone. What is the best piece of advice that you've all been given?
That's a good one.
I would say, and this is, I hate to say like advice, but it's something that someone, like, it's an education thing that I taught or learned, and it was specifically that like, it's boundaries are freeing, that's the thing. And it's the idea of when you live inside a certain set boundary, then you can do whatever you want. And specifically, I learned that when we were talking to schools doing a musical. And it was like, your boundaries are, you know, my budget's $100, so that's my boundary, which means we're gonna use no sets, and we're going to, like, that's your boundary, live within that, explore. You don't have money to pay for a magic carpet, use 20 people that become the magic carpet. That's more magical than a $20,000 flying thing, you know? But I really have realized that is in everything. And especially over the pandemic, it was like boundaries are freeing. It's like, I'm going to do this thing every day. Or it was with TikTok I loved. Your boundary was a 59-second video. If you can't tell the story in 59 seconds, you're done. So I would say that. And it's also good for like mental health and like relationships, just for everything, boundaries freeing.
And I would say this is a thing that I would hear Dan say all the time, and I had no idea that he was quoting Joe DiPico. And so I like assumed it was just an existing idiom and not a very specific quote from a very specific person I know. But you can't edit a blank page, which is very useful advice when you're like fretting about how you're not going to be able to produce the perfect version on the first try. The worst version gets you a lot further than nothing.
I love that one too. Yeah.
It's a good one, yeah. She's very smart.
Wow. Those are both great. I'm gonna hashtag and TikTok and Instagram those for sure.
You're also Gen Z, we can see.
I'm as Gen Z as they come, very clearly. Thank you both so much for coming and joining us